So I've been having some problems with the action on my Shirogorov Mayo Dr. Death. And it's disassembled right now, and when I have it all back together again, I'll show you how it's behaving. Right now it's apart because the first thing I did is this thing was probably at the factory greased with kind of a viscous grease. So I thought what might help it is to clean it all up, and so I've been using 99% alcohol for that, and cleaning all the surfaces. And the flipping action improved a little bit, but not as much as I like. So then I used some nano oil in all the different parts, and that made it a little bit worse, better than the way I had it, but so now I'm going back to cleaning this all up, getting all the lubricant out of there. The ball on this, that looks like it's placed pretty well. Because the other thing I could do is I could push the detent ball further in. I was comparing that to my 95T, and I'm not measuring it. I guess I could pull this apart, but this looks like about the same amount of protrusion into the path as this one. So for right now, I'm not going to mess with the detent ball. I'll make sure everything's dry. And then what I will do is decrease the tension on this just a little bit to see what difference that makes. I mean, the other thing I've tried is tightening up the pivot screw. And if you tighten this up far enough, it really slows down everything. And if you tighten it up, if you start loosening it, that helps, but there's a limit to how far you can loosen it, because the tip of the blade ends up centering in this thing, and there's not a lot of latitude. I mean, the more you loosen it, the better it flips and falls, but then it starts to get close to almost touching this one side. When it's perfectly centered, the flipping action is just okay. Sometimes I got to use a little wrist. Push button works a little bit better than a light switch. Hold on one second. Okay, so I put it together and probably adjusted this lock bar out that way, maybe 1/2 millimeter, maybe even less than that. But it was definitely out a little bit. And so this is what I get now. If I'm pointed straight up, it barely gets up there, versus a 95T, just it's almost like it's spring-loaded. And we'll try, this is the light switch, barely gets up there. And the push button, a little bit better, but not much better. It's fine if it's pointed down. Oh, it's even a little weak like that. And when I point it down, I get just a little bit of lock stick. Or if I just put a little bit of wrist action into it. That's the kind of action I'm kind of expecting, but you shouldn't have to do the wrist flick with it. So I don't think I helped it at all by moving this tension bar out. It did help with the closing. And if I tighten this thing up, it only makes it worse, and I can't loosen it up that much more because it's already not centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put this roughly back to where it was before and see what we get. Okay, so now what I did is I moved the lock bar back to roughly where it was before, basically moving it this way, probably like another half a millimeter. And it improved it somewhat. Makes me think, I wonder if I should go a little bit further next time. So going up, this is light switch. So that felt more sure, but it didn't have the command that that the 95T does. And here's light switch, or not light switch, push button. Again, a little bit better, but not totally sure. Also have some of that lock stick happening. If I'm not pointing up, it's better, of course, not fighting gravity. And if I'm pointing down, it comes right out. I'll probably have a little bit of lock stick here, yeah. And push button. What do I do about the lock stick? I'm going to try loosening this and then tightening it again. Okay, so I fiddled with this some more. In a closed state, I opened and closed the lock bar set screw, or the insert, and that seemed to make the lock stick a little bit better, but there's still some lock stick. If I tighten down the pivot too much, it slows everything down, doesn't even come open, doesn't lock. And I've loosened it up a fair amount. I guess it's still pretty well centered. So going up, light switch, it just barely clicks up in there. And let's do push button. So it goes up there, but it's just not commanding like. Oh, there's more mass to this blade. If I go horizontal, light switch, you're getting closer to what I'd like to see. And push button. And when I do that, I get a little bit more lock stick. And then down is pretty easy. That's close to what I want to have when it's up. You know, the other thing I could do is I could push the lock bar even further this way. Maybe later. I'm getting a headache from pulling these stupid bearings out and putting it back in again. They're not easy. So that's where I'm at.